The car stopped abruptly. In the rain, he saw his ex-wife drenched away, with two twins in her arms, and the past came rushing back with devastating force. If you enjoy emotional dramas, subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. Continuing. The rain fell thin and persistent, covering London with a veil of melancholy when Raphael Miller slowed down his black Mercedes, attentive to the congested traffic on Oxford Street. It was a grey Thursday in May, and he was returning from yet another frustrating meeting with investors. At 35, Raphael had built an empire in real estate, but lately he felt an emptiness that not even professional achievements could fill. On the pavement of Carnaby Street, something caught his attention. A woman huddled under a small, dilapidated awning, with two twin boys in her arms, trying to shield them with her own thin body. Their small faces were soaked, and their frightened eyes shone like two lost stars in the darkness. The woman wore a simple, faded blouse and jeans that had seen better days, but what truly made Raphael's heart race wasn't the helplessness of the scene, but the face of that woman. The delicate profile, the brown hair plastered to her wet face, the way she held the children with an almost feline protectiveness. It was her, Marina, the woman he had never forgotten, the woman who had once been everything and then, all of a sudden, simply vanished from his life as if she had never existed. For 6 long years, Raphael had immersed himself in work, building skyscraper after skyscraper, closing multi-million-pound deals, convinced that love was a price one paid for success. Marina's absence was a cauterized wound he carried in his chest, buried under layers of meetings, contracts, and empty achievements, a past he believed was definitively buried. But there, in the middle of the street under London's relentless rain, was living proof that the past not only breathed, but demanded answers he never knew he owed. Raphael braked the car abruptly, causing a symphony of irritated horns behind him. But he didn't care in the slightest. His hands trembled as he turned off the engine. He rushed out, took off his designer coat, and without a second thought, placed it over Marina's fragile shoulders. She hesitated, surprised, raising her wet face. For a second that seemed eternal, her brown eyes met his, and Raphael felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. It really was her. Thinner, with fine wrinkles around her eyes that hadn't been there before, but it was unmistakably Marina. "Raphael?" Her voice came out as an incredulous whisper, almost muffled by the noise of the rain and traffic. He couldn't answer immediately. He was too busy observing the two boys she held, one of them shyer, huddled even closer to his mother's lap upon seeing the stranger in an expensive suit approach. The other, more curious, watched Raphael with eyes he knew very well, eyes he saw every day in the mirror. In that instant, without needing a DNA test or scientific explanations, Raphael simply knew. Those boys were his sons, and he had never known it. "Please, Marina," his voice came out hoarse, laden with an emotion he couldn't control. "You're all soaked. Let me take you somewhere dry." Marina looked at her children, who were shivering with cold, then at Raphael. Pride battled practical necessity. She had always been proud, independent, determined not to need anyone. But the cold penetrating the boys, small bones overcame her resistance. "Only until the rain stops," she said, firmly, lifting her chin. "And only because of them." The drive to Raphael's penthouse apartment in Mayfair was made in tense silence, broken only by the twins' childish questions, who wanted to know everything about the luxurious car and the strange man who seemed to know their mum. "What's your name?" asked the braver of the two, turning in the back seat to face Raphael in the rearview mirror. "Raphael," he replied, his voice faltering. "And you two?" "I'm Lucas," said the boy with a toothless smile. "And this is Peter, my brother. He's shyer than me, but he's nice too." Peter merely waved timidly, still clinging to Marina's arm. Raphael felt as if he were in a dream. 5 years. 5 years of life he hadn't lived. First words, first steps, midnight fevers, laughter in the park, bedtime stories. All lost, stolen, ripped from him without him even knowing. When they arrived at the imposing building, Marina made it clear as they waited for the lift. "It will only be for one night, Raphael. I don't want favors nor promises that won't be kept. We'll leave early tomorrow." But Raphael knew that wasn't a favor. It was the rescue of an entire life that had been denied to him. The 300-square-meter apartment, with panoramic city views, impressed the boys, who had never seen anything like it. Lucas ran to the floor-to-ceiling window and was mesmerized by the city lights below. Peter, more cautious, remained by Marina's side, observing everything with wide eyes. "You must be hungry," Raphael said, trying to sound natural, but feeling completely lost. "I can order something or—" "No need," Marina interrupted, but Lucas's stomach rumbled loudly, betraying them. "I'm hungry, Mum," the boy confessed, unashamed. Marina sighed, defeated. "Thank you," she murmured to Raphael. As they waited for the food to arrive, Raphael discreetly observed Marina. She was thinner, definitely. Her simple clothes told a story of hardship he couldn't even imagine. But there was something different about her, too. A strength that hadn't existed before. A determination that time and struggles had forged. "Why did you disappear, Marina?" The question escaped before he could control himself. She stared at him with a mixture of pain and anger in her eyes. "I disappeared. Did I really disappear, Raphael?" The way she said it, laden with hurt and indignation, sent a shiver down his spine. There was something there he didn't understand, a missing piece of the puzzle. In the following days, Marina agreed to stay a little longer. Officially, it was because the boys had caught a cold from the rain and needed to rest. But Raphael began to realize that she was trying to understand what had happened between them all those years ago. It was when she began to tell her version of the story that Raphael's world crumbled. Marina had tried to find him. Many times. She called the company dozens of times, sent letters, even went to the office in person when she discovered she was pregnant. "Robert always answered me," she said one night, when the boys were already asleep in the guest room. "Your partner. He said you didn't want to talk to me, that you had made it clear our story was over. He even showed me a letter you supposedly wrote, saying you didn't want to see me anymore." Robert Raphael's partner for over 10 years, the one he considered almost a brother. The man he blindly trusted to run the business while he traveled. "That's not true, Marina. I never wrote any letter. I looked for you for months when you disappeared. Robert helped me hire detectives, check hospitals to—" Raphael stopped speaking when he saw the expression on her face, an expression of someone who was finally beginning to understand the magnitude of the betrayal they had suffered. The truth was even crueler than they imagined. Robert, driven by jealousy and envy, had systematically sabotaged any attempt at communication between them. He intercepted calls, forged documents, and lied shamelessly to both sides. He wanted to keep Raphael focused only on work, without emotional distractions, so he could manipulate him better in business. When Raphael finally confronted Robert, in the luxurious office they had built together, the mask finally fell. The man he considered a brother admitted everything without showing the slightest remorse. "You were too weak when you were with her, Raphael, sentimental. You didn't close deals properly, always thinking about rushing home. I did what needed to be done to protect our investments." Raphael felt a rage he had never experienced before. 6 years of life stolen, 6 years away from children he didn't even know existed. 6 years in which Marina fought alone to raise 2 children, working temporary jobs, enduring hardships he would never have allowed if he had known. That night, when he returned home and found Marina helping Peter with a drawing, while Lucas assembled a puzzle on the living room floor, Raphael felt something break inside his chest. It wasn't pain, it was the sound of a heart, finally beating truly again after years of automatic functioning. In the weeks that followed the discovery of Robert's betrayal, Raphael's life was turned upside down in a way he never imagined. For the first time in years, he woke up with a purpose that went far beyond closing deals and building another venture. He woke up thinking about preparing breakfast for Lucas and Peter, about knowing how their day at school had been, about being present for all the small discoveries 2 5-year-olds make daily. But rebuilding a family was not as simple as signing a contract. Marina maintained a respectful distance, allowing him to get to know their children, but making it clear that there were still deep wounds that needed to heal. She slept in the guest room, while the boys shared another room, and Raphael felt as if he was walking on an emotional minefield every day. The first major turbulence came when Camilla, His ex-girlfriend found out about the new situation. Camilla was a 26-year-old digital influencer with over 2 million followers, accustomed to being the center of attention and living a life of perfect appearances on social media. When she learned that Raphael was living with his ex-wife and 2 children he didn't even know existed, she exploded in a spectacular fury. "Are you trading me for a discarded woman with 2 children?" she shouted in the lobby of Raphael's building, oblivious to the curious neighbors watching. "After 2 years together, you discard me like I'm trash," Raphael tried to explain, but Camilla was already filming everything for her stories, dramatizing the situation as if she were the victim of a great betrayal. Within hours, the story was on gossip blogs, with sensationalist headlines about the businessman who abandoned his influencer girlfriend for his ex with secret children. Marina was mortified by the exposure. "I don't want this life, Raphael," she said, bags packed. "I don't want my children to grow up amidst scandal and gossip." It was Lucas who saved the situation, without even realizing it. He approached Raphael as he tried to convince Marina to stay, and, with a child's naturalness, said, "Dad, are you going to read us a story tonight?" The word "dad" made Raphael choke. Peter, shyer, also approached and held his hand. Mum said, "You're our dad." "Is it true?" Raphael knelt to the boys, height, his eyes welling up. "Yes, it's true. And I'm very happy to have you in my life." Marina watched the scene and Raphael could see the internal struggle etched on her face, the love she felt for her children battling against the fear of being hurt again. The second obstacle came from where Raphael least expected it. His own mother, Mrs. Helen Miller, a 68-year-old widow, was a rigid and traditional woman, accustomed to the standards of London high society. When Raphael told her about Marina and her grandchildren, her reaction was immediate and brutal. "This woman appeared out of nowhere after years, with 2 children, and you simply believe they are your sons," she said during a tense lunch at her Mayfair apartment. "For heaven's sake, Raphael, use your head. She's obviously after your money." Marina, who had gone to meet the boys' grandmother, heard everything from the next room. Raphael saw her pale and knew he had lost another battle in the war to rebuild his family. But it was Peter who, once again, changed everything. The shyer boy approached Mrs. Helen and, with a child's innocence, asked, "Are you our grandma? Mum said grandmas make biscuits and tell stories." Mrs. Helen looked at that angelic face, with eyes identical to her son's when he was little, and something inside her broke. For the first time in years, she smiled genuinely. "Would you like me to make biscuits?" she asked, her voice softer. "Very much," Peter replied, excited. The following weekend, for the first time in decades, Mrs. Helen's kitchen was filled with children's laughter. Lucas and Peter helped her make chocolate biscuits, making a mess and filling the Stern house with a joy she had forgotten existed. "They are your sons indeed," she admitted to Raphael as they watched the children play in the garden. "They have your stubborn way and your expressive eyes. And Marina, she's a good mother, I was wrong." When everything finally seemed to be heading for a happy ending, the blow arrived that almost destroyed all of Raphael's dreams. Marina received a job offer in Edinburgh, an important position in a marketing company, with a salary that could finally provide financial stability for her and the boys. "It's a unique opportunity, Raphael," she explained one night after the children were asleep. "I need to think about their future. I need to provide security, education, a better life." Raphael felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. He had just found his children, and was he going to lose them again? "What if I come with you?" he said impulsively. "I can work from anywhere. I can start a branch of the company in Edinburgh, or even sell everything and start over." Marina looked at him, surprised. "Would you do that? Leave your whole life here?" "Marina, you and the boys are my life. Everything else is just work." It was at that moment that Robert, realizing he was about to lose total control of the company, showed his cruelest face. He appeared with a court injunction, alleging that Raphael was making emotional decisions that harmed the business and the other partners. He threatened to expose documents that, according to him, would prove Marina had manipulated the situation to benefit financially. "Do you really want to risk the custody of these children because of a romantic fling?" Robert said during a tense meeting in the office. "I have contacts in the judiciary. I can easily prove she is a negligent mother who exposes her children to inappropriate situations." Raphael felt a murderous rage, but it was Marina who acted. She had kept all the letters she had tried to send Raphael years ago, all the contact attempts Robert had sabotaged. She even had recordings of some phone conversations where he discouraged her from looking for Raphael. Together, they went to the press, not to create a scandal, but to clear their names and expose the truth. The story of how a greedy partner had separated a family for years moved public opinion. Robert not only lost his position in the company, but also faced a lawsuit for moral damages. It was during the review of all legal documents that Marina and Raphael discovered something surprising. The divorce they thought had been finalized years ago had never been officially processed. Due to a bureaucratic error that neither of them had noticed at the time, they had never ceased to be legally married. "So, technically, we've been husband and wife all these years?" Marina asked, laughing for the first time in weeks. "It seems so," Raphael replied, also laughing. Fate has a peculiar sense of humor. "Dad, Mum, why are you laughing?" asked Lucas, appearing in the living room with Peter behind him. Raphael and Marina exchanged glances. "Because we discovered we're a real family," Raphael said, opening his arms to the two boys. "We were always a family," Peter said, with a child's simple wisdom. "It's just that now we're all together." A month later, they were in Edinburgh, not because of the job Marina had received, but because they had decided to start anew in a new place, far from the ghosts of the past. Raphael opened a small construction company specializing in affordable homes, a job that made him feel he was truly contributing to something greater. Marina started working part-time at a local advertising agency, but dedicated most of her time to her children and rediscovering who she was when she wasn't fighting for survival alone. The house they bought was simple, with a large garden where Lucas and Peter could play. It had a spacious kitchen where the whole family gathered for meals and a cozy living room where they spent evenings watching cartoons or playing board games. One autumn afternoon, when the rain fell again, now fine and soft, the four of them went out together for a walk in the park near their home. They didn't hide from the rain this time. They let themselves get wet, laughed together, and ran through the soaked paths. Lucas and Peter ran ahead, laughing and jumping in puddles. Raphael held Marina's hand, firm and secure. It was no longer a fortuitous reunion under a small awning. It was the beginning of all the days they would have together from then on. The rain that had once separated them now united them in a wet dance of freedom and joy. And under the grey sky of Edinburgh, they finally found what no fortune, no professional success, no material achievement had been able to buy: belonging, peace, and a love that, despite all the storms, never ceased to exist in the depths of their hearts.